Hello and welcome back. This is Coffee with Carl number 53. And the first thing I want to talk about today was actually something that one of my patrons brought up, which I was surprised at and did a little bit of investigating. And I think this story is still unraveling. So this is about Truman Boot Company. And just hat tip to Rich. Thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. I have owned a pair of Trumans. I bought them. I did a review. They were cool, but I ended up selling them to this guy, Rich. And so he has them now. They were great. They were those, I forgot, they were called the Snuff, Rough, Mohawk, Command, whatever they were. They were really cool, and I hope that he's getting a lot of use out of them. However, Truman posted something on X about this week, which was somewhat cryptic and doesn't really... It's kind of interesting. I'm not exactly sure what this means here. This says here, for our 10-year anniversary, we will begin to phase out our lifestyle boots and unique leathers. Now, what's interesting is that somebody asks beneath that, taking investors to keep it going? And then Truman responds by saying, it's going really well. We just find ourselves in a market we don't want to be in. And, you know, so then there was a lot of confusion and people were asking, what does this mean? And I'll give you my kind of knee-jerk reaction to this, which is I think the reason that Truman holds the place that they do is because of their unique leathers. And when I think of Truman, I think of really nice finishing. They make a great boot. And also the availability of these really cool leathers. You can get things from Truman which you can't get anywhere else. And to me, that was always the big appeal of their stuff. And I don't know why they're doing this. I'm not sure what's behind it. I don't know what they mean by we find ourselves in a market we don't want to be in. Does that mean that they're shifting more toward the work boot thing? I hope not, because honestly, the world needs another Pacific Northwest boot brand like it needs another hole in the head, in my opinion. We already have Nicks, Whites, Westco, Franks, you know, and Drews. I mean, you know, it's too much already. So I don't think that's what they're saying. I don't think that's where they're going. But then if they shift the other way, well, we already have Grant Stone. We already have Alden. We already have those brands. So I don't know exactly what they're trying to get at. To me, that was always their thing. And for them to say, we're going to be shifting away from that thing, I guess our question has to be, towards what? And I don't use X very much. I actually created an account and I sort of forgot about it. But it looks like, you know, whoever it is there behind Truman, I can't remember his name, is very active on there. So if you want to follow along with this story, you certainly can. Next thing I want to tell you about is that the Field Leathers trucker jacket that we had done a while ago with the rough out leather, that had done so well that Greg wanted to do another drop of those. A drop which includes a lot of the things that he was being asked. So people made requests. He took those requests and essentially the second drop will be addressing a lot of those. I'm going to give you guys, the patrons, a closer look at these a little bit later, but this is one and this is the other. So these are coming. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about those in the Patreon section, but I'm going to be making a video about those, and that will hopefully be out maybe later this week. We'll see. With the holidays coming up, it's a really crazy time, but I hope to tell you a little bit more about my ongoing collaboration with Field Leathers a little bit later. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is, and I hate to do this because I hate to give attention to negative commenters. There are so many wonderful supportive comments which I try to respond to that honestly I would rather talk about, but when there is a negative comment, I feel that it does sometimes need a little bit of addressing. It's tough. This is a weird dynamic that we have here. I'm speaking to you, you may be watching or listening to me, and sometimes what I can say can be taken out of context or perhaps misinterpreted, most of the time probably because of my own inability to explain it clearly. I mean, I do my best, but this is also supposed to be off the cuff and just kind of a stream of consciousness and the way I feel about things. And everybody should know that this is nothing more than my opinion on stuff. That opinion is subject to change, especially with new information. And I will admit to you when I don't know something, or if I want to learn more about it, or if I should look into it a bit more. I find it to be sort of silly to take a hardline stance on something that I'm not 100% sure about. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I made a comment in the last video about enjoying this warmer weather and that the snow seems to come later, and that I didn't know really what was behind that, and I still don't. And that for no other reason than my own selfishness, the fact that it stays a little bit warmer into November, now that's changed, in the last couple days, has been a good thing because I've been able to get things done in the backyard. Well, I got a few people who decided to comment on that, calling me a climate change denier, that I won't be so happy when my kids will be underwater. So, again, these are two comments in particular who, I tried to address and simply weren't having it. The fact of the matter is, though, as I explained, that I simply don't know. I'm not a climate scientist. I don't know anything about this. I don't necessarily believe what I'm told from the news or from any source of information. I like to find out for myself. Does it feel like it's been getting warmer? Yeah, it does. What's behind that? I don't know. And I admit when I don't know something. What this kind of makes me want to do, I hate to say it, is to simply stick to the clothing stuff and not go off cuff and or off the cuff or off script, I should say, and just stick to that, because it seems that if this is the kind of response I'm going to get, now this is two people, right? If that's the kind of response I'm going to get, then it's not really worth it. That's not what this channel is about. This channel is my whole thing, right? Whether it's this channel or the other channel, is truly about living life and enjoying it. And this happens to be a hobby that we share. Again, a vocal minority won't change the way I do things. And I really honestly hope that that doesn't become the case, that I have to simply stick to the script. Because if that is the case, then that's the end of this channel. Because I already do that on my main channel. Everything that I say on my main channel is pretty well thought out ahead of time. It is, I'm not going to say that I read verbatim from a script, but I'll look at bullet points and I remember, so things can be snappy and quick. Here, I feel like I could take much more time, and you and I could share a morning together. So anyway, I don't want to belabor the point. I don't want to beat this horse to death. But I think that, when it comes to hot button issues like that, we should at least have the ability to speak openly about them. And that seems to be one of the problems now, is that if you have a stance that isn't the accepted norm, or even worse, if you just have questions, if you maybe aren't sure about something and you could say, I need more data and I'm interested to learn more, but I'm not going to say that I believe what you believe because of bullying or social pressure. To be honest, I don't need any more friends. And so, I think that that's one of the big problems that we are suffering as from from a cultural perspective right now, is the inability to speak openly, and this tribal kind of, you're on this side or you're on that side. To be fair, both people on the right and the left have said that I am on either side. And so as somebody who most of the time walks a middle line, and I try to look at things on a case-by-case basis within my context and with the facts that are given to me, I've developed my own way of living. And really what that is focusing on the people who are closest to me, the people who I am responsible for, and trying to live life in the best way that I can by not causing harm to others and trying to do good and hopefully leaving the world a little bit better than I came into it. Above all, I'm a humanitarian, and I really don't care what political party you're a part of. To me, it's more important that, you're a good person. All right, White's Boots have been coming out with some really cool stuff lately. Last week, it was the West Bale pull-on, which I still think is awesome. They're having a great 20% off sale right now, which is pretty substantial. I mean, 20%. When you're talking 20% of a $720 boot, that's what, $570? Not bad. Well, they have released a new leather, so it's not really a new release, but this is their Green Pastures, and I think Nick's actually did something with this earlier this year, and it looked killer. And I gotta tell you, One of the boots that I have been really, I want in my collection, I want a pair of these, is the 350 Cutter. Badass looking boot, sort of a semi-laced toe. It's just a beautiful looking boot. It reminds me a lot of my bounty hunters, to be honest with you. And I'm a sucker for green. I really am. And this looks really, really nice. And especially since the fact that it is Chrome Excel. Chrome Excel is a softer leather, much easier to break in than a lot of other leathers are. So these are going to be pretty good right out of the box. Anyway, they offer this green pasture in the 350 Cruiser, which is the one that I like, the 350 Cutter. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Whoa, let me back up again. What did I just say? The 350 Cruiser is the non-semi-laced toe. The 350 Cutter is the semi-laced toe. And then the MP Sherman, which I actually already, I have a pair of those. They're okay. But, you know, looking at that next to the Cutter, I think just the style-wise, oof, that 350 Cutter is really sharp. So I'm going to have a little bit of a challenge telling myself that I don't need these, which I truly don't. I have a lot of boots. I don't need these, but I want them. Ironheart released their wool buffalo check bush jacket in red. Now, this is a seasonal run. I think they came out with this last year as well, but man, this looks good. Now, it's $660, and we all know that Ironheart is just wonderful. I mean, really, like, it's tough to poke a hole in what Ironheart does. I think sometimes what they do can be a little safe, but that's okay because they do have their wacky stuff as well. So I like the fact that they just concentrate on really good staples, and you pay a lot, but you also get a lot. If I had to pick one brand to have a whole wardrobe of, it might be Ironheart. They're just that good. Now, this is made from 14.6 ounce fabric, which is actually a blend of 90% wool and 10% nylon. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, of course, I like 100% natural wool. That's just my, preference. But these things that they mix into that also have a place. A lot of times they'll put nylon in there for maybe some color fastness, for some stretch, for durability. There's a lot of different reasons that you may put a synthetic in there. But I think it does make you have to say, okay, well, if I'm going to pay that much money, and this is a nylon wool blend, although it leans heavily in the wool side, what else is out there? And for that, I think we have to look at our friends over at Heat Straps, because they just came out with a very similar jacket that looks a lot like this. It's actually cheaper, too. This is their woolen lumber jacket in red buffalo plaid. They also have it in green. I'm not sure if that's available right now. But the nice thing about this right off the bat is that the Ironheart fit is somewhat trim. The Heat Straps fit is somewhat more forgiving. It's a little bit bigger, and it's more of a classic workwear cut. But being $450, this is that's great. Now, the difference here is that this is 26 ounce, 100% virgin American wool. So, in my opinion, I think you're actually getting more for less. Now, will this have the refinement of the Ironheart? We got to be honest, it's not going to. Heat Straps is a newer brand. They have developed and gotten better with time. I think that their products now are better than they were when they started. And this evolution has been pretty clear. I think that maybe eventually they will be able to reach the level of an Ironheart if they keep forging forward and refining their processes. And especially when it just comes to overall refinement. When you look at an Ironheart piece, everything. You could turn the thing inside out, and it's still trim, beautiful, everything about it. And Heat Straps is getting there. I think, again, you could buy this and not have any problems, not want anything else. I mean, this is just a beautiful piece. And when you look at that savings, it's $200. $200 is no small amount. Well, I mean, if I was given the choice between the two, I think the money's on the Heat Straps. So anyway, those two are here. They're different products, admittedly. And if what you need is something that's a little bit lighter, 26 ounces is pretty thick. Don't forget too, with wool, a lot of times it'll actually feel lighter just because of the way it is and the density and stuff. 26 ounce compared to 14 ounce with the Ironheart. So there's a little bit of a difference there as well. But This is a case where I think I would have a hard time arguing for the Ironheart, which is pretty rare. Grant Stone came out with a new boot. And I was excited about this because I like Grant Stone stuff. I think that they do a great job. I think that you can't find anybody out there who wouldn't tell you that this is one of the best values going. As far as a brand goes, Grant Stone is just way, way up there. This is called their Baroda. It says here that it offers the comfort of the high-walled Floyd last with time-proven leather uppers, lining, and insoles. This plain-toe boot features smaller hardware, a single backstay, and larger quarter panels. It offers the feel and support of a work boot, while the subtle details of this plain toe pattern make it a viable option whether you're in the office or enjoying the outdoors. So their stuff is Goodyear welted. It's on this Floyd last, like they mentioned. It has a 360-degree split reverse welt. And it looks good. I gotta say, though, that I wish they had gone a little bit more with that high wall design. And what they basically mean is the toe wall. You know, this looks good, and I think it's a step in the right direction. I like the fact that they have different options now. These remind me of basically, and maybe this is exactly what this is, a plain-toed version of the brass boot, which is still one of my favorite boots. I love those. I have them in their blue, as a matter of fact, and I've been wearing those. They're really great. These look fantastic, though. I will say that this could be my hot take here, okay? Like, you may not agree, and I might change my mind, but looking at them right here in saddle tan with the black soles, they look kind of boring. There's nothing about them that makes me go, ooh, check that out. They just look a little safe. I don't know. And maybe that's what you need. Maybe that's what you want. You want something that just looks decent, that isn't going to attract a lot of attention to itself. And Grant Stone, in my opinion, their stuff actually looks better in person than it does on their website because of the refinement and stitch density and the things that they do. They just make a beautiful product. And so I have high hopes for these. I am not saying that they aren't good. I think that they look great. I guess I just, when I saw a new boot from Grant Stone, I wanted to open it up and have that same reaction like I have to the 350 Cutter, where I just go, whoa, I need those. And instead I was like, it's a good looking boot. You know, so that's my personal take. Maybe these are right up your alley. They come in like 3 different colors, I think. There's like a gray or something like that, and then these brown and black, I think. But yeah, they look really good. And I mean, hey, Grant Stone, they're doing awesome stuff. It's hard to argue with their products. They're really, really good. Now, I'm going to admit to you that I didn't really have that much time this week to look at new releases. I know a couple of other things have come out. I know that Big Idea Design has their new USA-made pen, and one of the cool things about that is that they actually milled the pocket clip rather than bending it, so it's this really thick pocket clip, which is pretty cool. So this thing, like, you got to be careful because it might just take your shirt right off when you take it out of your pocket. But these are the ones that really stuck out to me, which I wanted to talk about. But there is one more thing that I want to mention, and that is kind of interesting. Dickies is leaving Texas to move to California. So they've been in Texas for 102 years, and they're moving their headquarters to California, which is shocking. So in the press release that I saw here, or this is an article, I mean, but whatever. It says 102-year-old tough workwear brand is saying goodbye to its Texas home and moving its headquarters to California. Dickies' parent company, VF Corporation, confirmed the news that it would be relocating the headquarters to Costa Mesa to be located with the Vans team. So that's another brand that VF Corporation owns. Now, it's important to mention that this is just the headquarters. This is not Dickies manufacturing. Matter of fact, Dickies doesn't make much of anything in the U.S. anymore. And but I think what was surprising about it was I've heard more, like Tesla's a good example of companies leaving California because of the high taxes to a place like Florida or Texas because of the tax savings. Now, I don't know what is behind that. I know that sometimes states will actually offer these crazy discounted rates or some sort of a, something to basically attract companies to come to their state, a sweetheart deal, just so that they can move there and not make it a financial disaster. Is that what happened here? I don't know. I just thought it was surprising to see a company going to California when it seems like more of them are leaving California. Does it make much of a difference in the end to us? No, I don't think so. Their products already are kind of, affordable budget type of stuff, or like skater wear. And some of their lifestyle products are not much better than any mall brand. So in the end, I don't think anything is going to get any worse for us. I do wish that they maybe went back to, making some stuff that was really good. It just seems like most of the time when I get Dickies workwear, and I've gotten some pieces in the last, few years, that they're always on a budget. That's what it just feels like, is that you get this stuff, it's the cheapest, and it feels the cheapest. But that's what some people want. So anyway, that's happening, and I'm glad to see, though, that they are moving within the United States and not out of the United States. But it was just an interesting thing. I'm not really exactly sure what was behind that. This has been kind of a weird episode. We've talked about a few things that are sort of out of the norm, right? I mean, we've talked about Truman, we've talked about commenters, we've talked about sort of tribalism, and now we've talked about a company moving their headquarters. It just feels a little bit different to me. And that's going to happen sometimes, and to me, it's like sometimes you just accept that you're going to have an off day, and I'm not having an off day, but sometimes an episode might be a little off. It might be a little bit different, and that's all right, I mean, that's kind of the variety and what makes things interesting. If everything was the same all the time, that'd be one boring life. Let me just tell you a little bit about what's going on here and on the main channel and stuff. The big thing right now is this flannel shirt guide. It began and it was like a smaller video, and then more companies started asking if they could be a part of it, and I said yes, and before I knew it, like, it just grew to 13 different flannels this year from brands that I haven't shown before, and that's a lot. That's a lot of flannels. So that's coming, but that's just a big video to get my arms around. As I've described to you before, every time there's an added layer, it's a multiple of work that I have to do, because it's more B-roll, it's more data, that's more comparison, and it gets kind of, unwieldy after a certain point. So that's happening, and I always want to now try to add some element of something that will make people watch my videos without necessarily being interested in what it's about. Now, this is usually a video that performs really well, so I want to, do a great job even more, because I think more people will be watching it. And so this year I've tried to do something a little bit different, where I'm actually going to go and drive around and pick up a whole bunch of supplies for this animal rescue foundation that's down the street from me. And my sister used to volunteer there. As a matter of fact, if you watch my Anson belt video, my first video I ever did back in 2016, you could actually see why I went there and had one of the dogs like pull on the belt and stuff. It was kind of funny. But anyway, I'm going to try to do something where I can interweave flannels and all these different flannels with picking up supplies and dropping them off at the Animal Rescue Foundation. And it's a good way, in my opinion, to do some good and to have some fun and make the video entertaining and, about flannels, but not necessarily just about flannels. So I'm going to try to figure that out and put it together and see what happens. We're also heading up to New Hampshire for a little getaway, not exactly a full-on vacation, but, a few days just to get away and enjoy the holiday together. And traveling on a holiday is a good idea, by the way. If you don't necessarily want to spend too much time around your family, just say that you're going away for the holidays. And so we're going to be spending some time up there, which is going to be great. I love New Hampshire. We go up there almost every year, and it's just one of my favorite states. A lot of fun. And so that's what's happening here. And I have a couple of things up my sleeve for before the end of the new year that I really can't wait to show you. But anyway, all that stuff's coming, and I'm really excited. Can't wait to see what you think about it. Please let me know. I love your feedback. And anyway, that's it for this episode. We're going to go to the patrons only section right now, and we're going to talk about these Field Leathers jackets.